Time to get into the mind of a serial killer. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today we're definitely going to talk about a film where the main character tries to get inside the mind of a serial killer to help solve the crime and catch the perpetrator. And that movie is Manhunter. Yes, this movie came out August 15th of 1986. It's rated R, it's 2 hours long, had a budget of $15 million, and upon release it only made 8.6, unfortunately. And this film was directed by Michael Mann. This is before he did Heat, Ali, Collateral, and some of the films that he's loved for now, Last of the Mohicans. He was producing Miami Vice around this point in time, and he'd also done a film in '81 called Thief with William Peterson. They reunite in this film because William Peterson's in this film as Will Graham. Brian Cox plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Yes, somebody other than Anthony Hopkins has played Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Dennis Farina's in this film as Jack Crawford. I know in Silence of the Lambs it was played by Scott Glenn. I love Dennis Farina. I always love when he shows up, and he's fantastic in this film as well. Tom Noonan plays Francis Dollarhide, or also AKA the Tooth Fairy, as he become named in the press. And the great Stephen Lang's in this film too as Freddie Lauder, and he is kind of like a sleazy reporter. And Joan Allen is also in this film as Reba McClane, and she becomes kind of the obsession of the serial killer towards the latter half of this film. And yes, this is a part of the Dr. Hannibal Lecter, well, now franchise or series of films. This is the one that started it all before the great Silence of the Lambs, and I love Silence of the Lambs, but this is a pretty damn good film too. We're going to talk about that. This is based in the book Red Dragon. As a matter of fact, they were going to call this movie Red Dragon, but Dino De Laurentiis, who was one of the producers on the film and putting up the money for it, didn't want to get this confused with a Kung Fu film or a Bruce Lee film, so he changed it to Manhunter, which I know some people in the cast, especially Brian Cox, did not like the decision, but he made the decision. They renamed it Manhunter. And this film, William Peterson's character is Will Graham, and he retired from the FBI. He was a profiler, a serial killer profiler for the FBI. And we come to find out really quickly in this film that he had run in with Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Matter of fact, he is the one apprehended Lecter. But Lecter left his scar on Will Graham. Matter of fact, he slashed him across the stomach. And we find out pretty quickly that Will had problems recovering from that. He recovered physically, but then he had to seek psychiatric help because he couldn't get Dr. Lecter's thoughts out of his head. Because Will, the way he would catch serial killers is he would go to the crime scene, study it, and try to get in the head of the serial killer to try to figure out what he was thinking, how he did it, so they could catch. And it's really interesting how they set this up. Michael Mann sets this up. It's really a police procedural at times, using the latest technology for '86, obviously not today, but it's actually a very fascinating movie, and it's well done. And we follow. Will gets called back into service by Jack Crawford, gives him a call because he had this killer on the loose who's been nicknamed the Tooth Fairy. And he just slaughtered 2 different families, and he's on a lunar cycle. They figured that out, and they know he's going to strike in a few weeks when the next full moon happens. So he contacts Will, and Will begrudgingly comes along to the crime scene, checks it out to see if he can help, and then right just like that, he's sucked back into that life, and he wants to help them stop this guy, much to the dismay of his wife and his son. And they really do show the struggle with Will. When he goes, he makes mention after he sees the crime scene, he has this meeting with some other FBI guys. He tells Jack that he's going to go see Hannibal Lecter, and Jack's like, why would you go see him? To get his thoughts on this and to get back into that mindset. And there's a great scene, because Brian Cox is an excellent actor. And I know Anthony Hopkins gives a terrific performance in The Silence of the Lambs, but Brian Cox definitely plays a little bit different of a Hannibal Lecter here than you're used to seeing if you've never seen this film. But I love his performance in this film. I love Anthony Hopkins' performance, no doubt, but I love Brian Cox's performance in this film. When Will sits down in that cell room with Brian Cox as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, this is a different Lecter. He's smooth talking, very intelligent, you can tell. But as we find out pretty quickly, he's also very vindictive. He's pissed that Will was the one who caught him. And he tries to, during the film, he's communicating with the Tooth Fairy. And he gives, through a coded message, Will's address in Florida. So they have to take Will's family, wife and kid, and take him to a safe house. And then Will tells her to go to Montana and visit her father until this is all over. And Will's pretty much going back and forth. They're gathering evidence. He's figuring some things out, but they still don't know who this guy is. I'm going to skip over a lot of things. If you've never seen it, I don't want to spoil it. Towards the end of the film, although I'm going to spoil some things because this movie has been out since '86. Towards the end of the film, we don't even see Tom Noonan, who plays the serial killer in this film, until 55 minutes into the film. And he definitely, even though his presence as the Tooth Fairy's presence looms large over the film, he's the whole reason why this film's taking place, why these people are searching for him. He is everything about what this film's about, really, besides Will's mental state, him getting back into the life. And Tom Noonan's fantastic in this film as a serial killer. Definitely makes a compelling villain. And they definitely explore his psyche, definitely. And they do give him enough screen time, even though he doesn't show up until 55 minutes in, so you get to know his character a little bit. And basically towards the end, there's this woman who Francis, or the Tooth Fairy, have become infatuated with, Joan Allen, who's blind, who works at the same place he works at, this film development lab, where Will figures out that's how he scouted their houses. That lab developed these families' home movies, and that's how he knew he needed a bolt cutter for some things, what he needed, tools to get into the house, what, you know, that's how they figured out this is towards the end of the film. And by this point, Joan Allen's character and Tom Noonan's character they slept together and they kind of have a relationship, but he's very jealous because some guy took her home. So he took her back to her house and he's basically torturing her when Will shows up with the cops. And there's one moment it's a little out of sorts for Will. He runs right through this sliding glass window to help save this woman with a gun. And Tom Noonan kicks the shit out of him, grabs a shotgun, starts shooting cops left and right. It's definitely an explosive ending for sure. It's well done and well staged. It's just when he runs and jumps through that window, it's like, what the hell? Did this just turn into an action film? It kind of does for like 5 minutes. It turns into like a full-blown shootout there. And Tooth Fairy gets killed. Will shoots him and kills him. And we see Will getting closure at the end. Like, he can close that chapter on his life, and he can shake off these thoughts of getting into serial killers' heads. And we see him standing on the beach with his wife and son. And that's the end of the film. And there's also a great scene about when they take Will's son and wife to a safe house. His wife explains to him about his son having questions about the time he spent with psychiatric doctors. And he takes his son shopping, and they have this really sober conversation while they're going down this aisle about Will's job, what he felt when he captured Dr. Lecktor and got maimed by him. And the kid comes off as very smart, and he really is thirsty for answers from his father about why his father had some problems earlier on. I really like that scene. It definitely was a very good scene between this child actor and William Peterson. And it definitely even gives you a little bit more insight into Will's psyche and what he's went through in the past. But overall, this is an excellent film. It doesn't get talked about enough. I know Silence of the Lambs, and I love Silence of the Lambs. It's a great film, no doubt. But this is a really damn good film, too, and it doesn't get talked about enough. I know in film fan circles, people really like this film, but this is a really well-done serial killer film and / police procedural with some great characters. I think William Peterson's fantastic here. He's such an underrated actor. I miss him on screen. And Tom Noonan's great. Brian Cox is fantastic once again, and he's not on screen that much, but he's just fucking awesome as Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And Dennis Farina's great. The whole cast here is doing great work. Stephen Lang's great as this scummy reporter. It's just awesome stuff. Now, for Dr. Hannibal Lecter's role, Michael Mann considered William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist and The French Connection, among many other films, Brian Dennehy. But Brian Dennehy actually suggested that Michael Mann look into Brian Cox, which he did, and he decided to hire Brian Cox. I thought that was pretty cool. Richard Gere, Mel Gibson, Jeff Bridges, and Mickey Rourke were considered for Will Graham. Obviously, he went to William Peterson, which Michael Mann probably felt very comfortable working with William Peterson again, since they worked together on Thief in '81. And that's about it for trivia. But I really love this film. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor, especially if you're into serial killer films. This isn't overly graphic. Yes, there's some blood. there's a lot of blood, but it's after the math kind of stuff. It's not during scenes. It's not overly violent, but there is some violence during the film. But if you like The Silence of the Lambs, do yourself a favor, check this film out. This movie kicks ass. I would give Manhunter a 9 out of 10. Yes, a 9 out of 10 for Manhunter. Have you ever seen this film? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video, greatly appreciate that. I will be back later in the week with a review for Class of 1999, the sequel to Class of 1984, which I just rewatched for the first time in many years, and I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it. Until then, I hope you're all doing well out there. I'm just going to leave you with bye.